Okay, welcome to part 2 of our epic model train world tour and race. This is going to be the American circuit. Going to be most of the ones you see right here. We already did the Europeans. That's all set and done. We know the winners of those. If you haven't seen that video, I suggest you go back and look. The link for that one is below. Following this one will be the Japanese to round it all out. So we're going to take the top two winners of each heat. They're going to go on to a World Tour Finals. But for now, we got to get these American boys running. Okay, here are your American contenders. Lots to pick from. I definitely have more American engines than any other region. Definitely some heavyweights in this batch. So it will be very interesting to see who wins out on this one. What would, of course, always be fun is to take your bets now. Leave a note in the comment section of which one you think is going to win. And then after the race, you can go back and see if your comment was right. So each one of these has been assigned a letter so that you can easily distinguish it and identify it later on. But there are a lot of good options to choose from this go around for sure. Like I said, lots of heavy hitters as you get a good look of the contenders going through this heat, which is the American circuit. It's going to work very similar to before. We're going to have a starting point on the track. 113.5 inches later is the finish line down at the end. And it's as simple as that. Same throttle speed as before. We're going to ramp up the engines all the way to here at the red line prior to crossing the start line. So they get a running start. Just like the Europeans and just like the Japanese will have after this. As before as well, some of these have been sitting a while, so I'm going to run them all at least one circuit around the track for a qualifying round, if you will. I will let you know if any of them get disqualified because they can't make it or for whatever reason. But that way they kind of work out the kinks, and so they're ready to go come race time. But other than that, it should be a fun competition to see who of the Americans end up winning. Okay, just finished the qualifying round. All these guys went around one circuit pretty good. They did a little better than the Europeans did. Couple issues to speak of. One, this guy, well, he threw a shoe. Traction tire came off around the last corner there. Never really fun to put them back on, and it was kind of a struggle to get it back in, but it did go back in, as you can see right here. We are good to go on that guy. All the ones that were in the previous choice list are pretty much here, except for one guy who didn't really make it. This guy, he was kind of dead in the water, didn't really move, fiddled with it a little bit, but it's a super old one. I don't expect much from him anyway. So he has been disqualified for not moving at all. But the rest of these will be in the race, and that's going to start right now. Okay, let's announce some results. But actually, before we do that, I got an honorable mention. This guy had a little fun time trying to get to that end. First time I ran it, he stopped like right past the starting gate. And I'm like, okay, so I reset. Next time around, he stopped a little bit further than that. I'm like, okay. Third time around, you guessed it, he stopped somewhere else down towards the finish line. And I'm like, come on, dude. And then finally, fourth time through, he made it just fine, and that's the run you just saw with his heat. So he did not win, by the way, or lose. He was somewhere in the middle. But speaking of losers, let's talk about him. In third from last, taking a full 16.57 seconds, we have one of the best looking engines in the bunch. This guy, never been a fast runner, always been kind of slow, which is 63.4 miles an hour. But he looks great. This is a Bachmann. It doesn't run very well, but boy does it look good. I guess the good thing is he's not completely last. But below him, coming second to last, we have this guy, this UP old school runner, along with accompanying power car, I believe it is. Did it in 20.13 seconds or 51.7 miles per hour. This is actually a very slow time for this guy. I have 3 others just like this, same style, and I think same make. Who makes this? I want to say, yes, Lifelike. So I think I have 3 others, so 4 in total, made by Lifelike. I like the engine. They look good, but they all kind of operate very differently. This one, just for whatever reason, needs a ton of power to move. So I'm not surprised that he's dead last, because I have to pretty much run this thing full blast when I'm normally running them, and this was at the red line, so I'm not super surprised at where this one ended up at. But the complete loser, I don't know if you guessed it. I don't know if this is going to be a huge upset and huge shocker for some of you. But, well, let me just say the times first. So, he did it in an amazing, unheard of, 167 seconds for a scale equivalent of 6.4 miles an hour. What in the world? Can you guess who did this? Because unless you know, you don't know. And I'll lay it to you right here. It's this guy. Which is my most latest purchase, actually. And quite frankly, my most expensive purchase. This guy was not cheap. Broadway Limited, T1. It barely moved. In fact, you didn't even see this in the normal race because it just took too long. But I did do a side video so you can see how it kept starting and stopping, and jerking forward and stopping and starting, and it did finish. It eventually did. But it was so slow. Even in my unboxing video, you may have seen I was confused as to why it wasn't moving when I thought it was fully powered. I'm not sure if this is by design. When I do throw it into full power, it moves smoothly, but not fast at all. Very, very slow. I wasn't even sure this one was gonna move at all, and I would have disqualified it in the qualifying round if it didn't even move at that power setting. But it did. It jerked along very, very slowly. And I'm honestly surprised it even finished at this speed. Or at all. So there you go. Who saw that one coming? Very interesting indeed. So now we'll flip over to the winners, and you might see something else a bit interesting here too. Alright, third place. Doing it in a blistering fast 5.3 seconds. Scale equivalent of 194.7 miles per hour. It's the fan favorite GG1. People love this one. I do too. And it is quick. In fact, during the qualifying round as well as the race itself, it kept derailing at the turn past the finish line. And not just derailing its wheels came off. It did a full tumble. Every time. I tried it twice during the qualifying round, and it didn't even make it past that turn. Which is strange, because all my other turns that it did it before are the same radius, so I don't know why it kept failing there. But it did. But it finished the race, and it finished the race really quickly, and it did it in 193 scale, equivalent miles per hour. In fact, the top 3 are all in the 190s, which is pretty good. Alright, coming up in second place, which will make that next round when it goes to the finals, is this guy. One of my favorites. The Kato BNSF. Actually, both of these are Kato, by the way. But that BNSF, for whatever reason, is just faster than everything else. I had other couple Katos in the mix, and you'll see that coming up here when I show the full list. Especially the Rio Grande and the CSX one. Both very similar, but both slower. BNSF takes the crown again, at least from those. But it wasn't fast enough to take the top seed. Now, who is it? Who won? Because maybe you saw this coming. Maybe it's a bit of a shocker. Depends on how many videos of mine you've seen before. It beat out the BNSF by only 0.03 seconds. It is the notorious old school Atlas Mogul. Good Lord, what is in this thing? It is so fast. 198.4 miles an hour, scale equivalent. This thing moves, and it's like the smallest engine I have. In fact, it is the smallest engine out of anything we tested. How can it perform this well consistently? It baffles the mind of how small the little engine is compared to the others. Because it can't be that big. I mean, look how tiny the compartment is. And it moves too when it's pulling stuff. So it's not just, oh, it's a small engine, small weight, blah, blah, blah. It can pack a punch, and it always seems to show up when it needs to. But that is your American champion. So that and the BNSF will move on to the next round. Here are the scores overall. Nothing too shocking that we haven't kind of already gone over. You can see 4 and 5 were those other Kato ones I was talking about, but look at the scale speed difference. You know, the top 3 were in the 190s, and then you drop off to 170. And even that 6th one is that other lifelike engine I was talking about. At least I believe it's a lifelike. It doesn't actually say, but it's so similar to the others, I imagine it is. And then right next to that, number 14, is my original lifelike I got, which I love. It's a great little engine. But it's all the way down there at 105, miles per hour. Then, of course, we have the purple one rated at 18th. Also another lifelike. Only 70 miles per hour there. And then, the number 21st yellow UP coming in at 50. So, kind of odd that they're so widely ranged. Oh, one of the big upsets was 8th place, that Kato, 844. But a lot of people were hoping that would do a lot better. I kind of thought it would do a lot better. Actually, the Americans overall did pretty good. If you look at it, 68% of the engines were more than 100 miles per hour. But of course, only the top 2 will advance. So there you go. Did yours win? Did yours lose? How'd you do? Like I said, these are your 2 winners. That will be moving on. It will join, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the European race, it will join this guy in the finals for World Domination, who took 2nd, and this guy who took 1st overall. I've yet to do the Japanese circuit, but that is coming up next. If all these videos are already posted, they'll be in the links below if you want to check them out. Otherwise, stay tuned. It's been a fun ride so far. Who will it be? Which region? Which engine? Stay tuned for more.